Claire Pissell, have you been trying, I mean, I don't want to ask personal issues, have you or your family members tried to get a doctor's appointment lately?
Yes, yeah, no, they have.
And easy to get, no question at all, straight in?
No, incredibly difficult to get. You have to fill out some kind of online form. You may or may not get a call back, and the receptionist then may deem you not to be urgent, and you have to phone back in a couple of weeks because they can't book any.
I always love the phone back in a couple of weeks. That's always my favourite thing. I would say, no, that's not acceptable to me.
Yeah, see,
and then I just wait and sit on that. I just wait.
You see, I would do that. I start to get really stroppy, but which is probably good for them that I don't have that many needs to go to the doctor recently.
But it is extraordinary, isn't it? We've just had just this morning the end of the 5-day doctor strike. This is the resident doctors in hospitals, and we've obviously got issues, particularly some big issues over quite how much money. Some £6,000 for a shift. Some doctors have been asking to cover emergency shifts, and the NHS chief saying, "Oh, please don't do that." But it's also emerged today. The NHS has allowed trusts to spend almost £2 million on staff networks, which have hosted a series of woke events over the past 2 years. They show they budgeted more than 1.8 million for internal staff groupings, usually linked to race, sexuality, disability, religion, or of course gender. And more than 154 NHS trusts who responded to a request from the TaxPayers Alliance about this. They have networks. They've hosted hundreds of events, these networks, between 2022 and 2024, including a Eurovision viewing party at Manchester University NHS Foundation, an event on embracing asexuality. That means you just don't have sex. At the Princess Alexandra Hospital NHS Trust, and also an NHS staff meeting at University College London Hospital's NHS Foundation Trust, which was a talk on embracing your afro/curly hair. And also at Barking, Havering and Redbridge University Hospitals NHS Trust, there was an International Pronouns Day event. Oh yes, and the RUH Hospital in Bath, where my mum used to work, a talk on breaking the rainbow ceiling. Let's talk about all this now, before I just lose the will to live, with James Esses. He's a psychotherapist and founder of Just Therapy. A very good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, Julia.
James, I mean, let's just start with a group sigh, because it is extraordinary. We understand there are going to be, some sort of events and things that happen in hospitals at any large organisation that we may not be geared around, say, the patients or, the customers, etc. But we're talking about 1.8 million quid that could have gone on paying nurses, on extra tests, on more cleaning services, more bandages, whatever it is, more MRI scans being brought forward. But instead it was spent on things like breaking the rainbow ceiling and embracing your afro or curly hair. What do you make of this?
Well, as a psychotherapist, I'm quite content to diagnose the entire NHS with collective lunacy, because that's exactly what this is. And, I looked at the response to the Daily Mail article on this from the NHS, and they said that they're doing all of these events to try and be inclusive. It's not particularly inclusive, is it? I mean, I would love to have some curly or afro hair, but instead I've just got a slowly receding hairline. But where is the event for that? Or, I don't have anything particularly exciting about myself. I'm just one of these boring, straight white men, many of whom work in the NHS. But what events are there for those? And look, I'm being slightly facetious here, but as you've noted, waiting lists are up, cancer diagnoses are on the rise, we've had strikes from junior doctors, and yet money, and not just money, but significant amount of time being devoted to running these events.
And I think that's a crucial point. When we talk about, the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, all of that stuff, and you've been fantastic at publicising it in not just public sector, but also in private sector, whether it's, John Lewis or Wix or any other organisation. It's the effort and the time. And it's not just that those people are doing a job that serves no purpose whatsoever in terms of an output or helping people. They actually are impeding on other staff getting their jobs done.
That's precisely it. And, we see also how menacing these staff networks are, because they carry a lot of clout.
Yes.
Essentially what you find is senior management within the NHS or within local councils kowtowing to these networks because they've got power in numbers, and senior management are concerned that if they're not chucking money and time at these pathetic initiatives, that they're going to be accused of transphobia or racism or something like, so it's easier for them to just give into it.
Yeah, but also when you've got organisations like Stonewall, who used to be a wonderful, organisation fighting for gay rights and now are completely and utterly insane, properly insane in terms of their view. If you think that a man can become a woman or a woman can become a man because they think it, I'm sorry, you'd be diagnosed with insanity in any other decade in human existence. But they have been pushing, and for thousands of pounds fees, to the public sector, to government, to charities, to private organisations, they basically sell the Stonewall seal of approval, don't they? That you are doing the right thing. So a lot of these big companies and a lot of their HR departments, they sign off on and organisations like NHS Hospital Trusts, they sign off on these events and on these things because it's a way of showing and proving that they are diverse and open and not transphobic and not racist and not anything else.
That's it. It's pure virtue signalling to the tune of millions of pounds. And it's really quite sickening to think about what that money could actually be used towards. Yes. No, it's not just a silo in the NHS. I mean, I recently put out, along with a colleague of mine, freedom of information requests to local councils across the country. And it appears that potentially dozens, if not hundreds, are in breach of the recent Supreme Court judgment on biological sex. So, for these ideologically driven organisations, it seems to be business as usual. But actually, I think that the NHS would do far better spending this money on providing many of the doctors with GCSE textbooks, because many of them still don't seem to know the difference between a man and a woman.
Yeah, we keep seeing this, don't we? It is absolutely extraordinary. And maybe also less money spent fighting employment tribunals against nurses who would rather not have to get changed into their bra and knickers in front of a man who's claiming that he's a woman but is also a doctor and therefore being protected, as we've seen the Sandy Peggy case and other cases as well. You mentioned that Supreme Court ruling, which so many people on the day, it was back in April, wasn't it, saying that this is the game changer, this changes everything. And we've seen that in certain sports, we've seen it in certain organisations, but certainly not across the board in terms of the absolute recognition that, no, you can't think that men can become women and women can become men, that a trans woman, i.e. a man who identifies as a woman, has access to women's single-sex services. And we are really, really struggling to get that pushed. We're going to see a lot of legal cases before that changes. But one interesting development I've seen, which is a Brighton-based survivors network, and basically these are support sessions for women who've been sexually abused, sexually assaulted and raped, a rape crisis charity. Basically, I mean, I'll let you tell the story, actually. You probably said it better than me, but this is basically about a woman who's identified as Sarah, basically going along to get to a support group, and then a man turning up saying he identifies as a woman, looks very much like a man because he is a man, and action that's followed on from that. Talk us through the details.
Well, exactly that, and this anonymous individual, Sarah, found herself with a man in what was meant to be a safe space for women, and she obviously raised a complaint, and they doubled down, and then there was legal action being brought, and now it's resulted in this kind of out-of-court settlement, where essentially they've said, OK, we're going to create a brand new group which will just be for women. But, some are saying it's a bit of a win. I don't view it as that big a win because they're still continuing to pander. Yeah. The existing mixed-sex group still remains, and so because of ambiguity around language, I still envisage women seeking out this support, finding themselves in a room with a bloke. It's a 12-month pilot. And actually, it's so nonsensical because this new group for women only, they say that they're not allowing quote-unquote trans men who are women.
Who are women.
The whole thing's a mess.
Or non-binary. Again, no one's non-binary. But I find it extraordinary. This is the BBC article, and this. Can everyone spot the flaw in this article? So this is Sarah speaking. She said she approached a group for support after coming into contact with the man that she said had attacked her. So she'd been abused as a child, raped in her 20s. She came across this man, and it kind of triggered everything. She said, I was finding it really hard to cope. So she said she found that she went to these sessions, this rape crisis charity. She found the sessions helpful and supportive, and she said they were a safe space. However, this is the BBC. However, a trans woman, a biological male who identified as a woman, now that's a good start. They're actually pointing out that a trans woman is a biological male, started attending the support group for victims of sexual abuse and assault. Sarah says the trans woman presented as a typical male in the way she looked and dressed. Now, no, he looked and dressed. Even in the article about this, even after that Supreme Court ruling, BBC and numerous newspapers who should know better, the Mail, Sun, Telegraph and others who've been brilliant on this cause, still, because of ipso, still refer to men who identify as women but are quite clearly men and will always be men, born men will die men, refer to them as she and her.
Yeah, I mean, not only is it confusing and misleading,
yes.
but it's promoting complete and utter falsehood. It flies in the face of journalistic integrity. But, you know, it doesn't surprise me with the BBC. I mean, I saw a couple of weeks ago that the University of Sussex had awarded an honorary degree to Eddie Izzard, and the BBC article was gushing full of female pronouns as regards Eddie. So
who is a man and who used to just call himself a cross-dresser, which is what he was. He was what he would have said at the time as, his words, a tranny.
Well, quite right. But now he's Susie Izzard, and some days he's in girl mode, and some days he's not.
Well, again, I'm Julian today because I've got flat shoes as always on when I'm in the studio. So when I'm in my flat shoes, I'm a man, because that's apparently the logic of Eddie Izzard. He'll always be Eddie and not Susie, because that is his name. James Esses, you've been absolutely fantastic. I cannot implore you enough. Follow James Esses on social media. You've been such a fantastic campaigner on this, and you put your own career on the line for. He's a psychotherapist and founder of Just Therapy. Claire Pearsall, this stuff drives us up the wall, doesn't it?
It does. And just when you think that you've come to the conclusion with the Supreme Court judgment, and here we are in very nearly August, and people still aren't accepting that ruling was made, and that's
well, they still don't accept things like the Tavistock. They don't accept the cash review. They don't accept any of it. They are going to fight. Again, legal.
Yeah.
You have to take them down.
Yeah.
You need accountability. I need people to lose their jobs.
Yes.
Simple as that.
It's not difficult.
It's the only thing that's going to work.